get excited, grab a snack, and strap in. It's time to finally talk about Mort. So I've recently decided to start reading all of the Discworld novels. I previously read Monstrous Regiment, and now I've just finished Mort. The way that I've decided I want to structure these videos is I'm going to talk about 3 negative things about the novel, 3 positive things about the novel, and then 3 connections that I think this novel makes to other books in the Discworld series. One quick thing before we get started. Going into it, I didn't really read the blurb properly, so I didn't realize that this was going to be a romance book, which didn't really stilt my enjoyment of the book. It kind of just took it in a direction that I wasn't really expecting. And coming off of that, the first bad thing about the book, in my opinion, is the insta-love. Yeah, unfortunately, this book does fall prey to some pretty heavy insta-love. I don't want to get too deep into spoilers, but it's pretty obvious from the get-go that Mort falls pretty hard and fast for Princess Kelly, which I wasn't too big a fan of. It really made it difficult for me to get invested as Kelly as a character because I never really saw them build their relationship with each other. And consequently, I didn't really care about Kelly's whole subplot. Kelly has like her own subplot, and it really made it difficult for me to care about that because I didn't really know about her as a character in the first place. And that leads me to the second bad thing, in my opinion, is Mort's character, especially in the middle of this novel, is very sporadic and all over the place. It really took me out of it, and I feel that the book, especially in the middle, a lot of my problems with this book fall in the middle section of it because that's just not its strongest point. And I feel that in the middle section, the book does a lot to explain the world and the world around Mort and all these other characters, but it doesn't really do a lot to explain Mort. Certain elements of his character that did go unexplained and maybe could have been explained a little bit deeper. And the third thing is that actual plot related events and story beats that generated conflict for the characters weren't really all that explained. The characters make a deal out of like uniting the kingdoms, and the reason the mistake that Mort makes is that it kind of starts to unravel history and it's a whole thing about how the kingdoms won't get united, but none of that is ever really explained. I feel like if they spent more time in the middle of the book kind of explaining to us why that's important or how that affects the world, maybe that would have meant more, but I don't know, it's only mentioned a couple of times, but it's made out to be the huge point of the story, but I don't know, I just didn't really feel like it gave it as much gravity as it should have. But now we get to move on to all the things that I thought were great. I'll say right off the bat, the beginning and the end are the best parts of this book. They're great. I love them both, especially the end. The end is so worth it. But the first official good thing about this book was Death's character. I felt that Death's character was really stretched and developed so much more than I expected him to be, because going into it, I was kind of just expecting him to be like this anthropomorphic personification as he's described in the book. But his character really changes and grows throughout the novel, and I really found myself coming to like his character. I think this is definitely Death's book. The book did a great job of expanding his character and making him so much more than I was expecting him to be. And the second good thing about this book, I'm gonna try and not go into spoilers here, but Albert's plot twist is just so... I wasn't really expecting it, but I feel like that's kind of because it didn't really get mentioned all that much. But there are just certain scenes, like the scene with Albert in his bedroom. It's just so good. The end of the book is so worth it because of this plot twist. It's so good. In my opinion, the third good thing about this book is the relationship between Mort and Death. Especially towards the end, like looking at their relationship from the beginning of the book to the end of the book, you can really see how Mort's grown. The book really plays up the duality between their two characters, and it's just such an interesting dynamic. And I love it. But those 3 things certainly are the only good things about this book. If you want to chuck some more down in the comments, let me know, and we can have a discussion about it. But now moving on to 3 connections that I found to other books in the Discworld series. The first one is the Pyramids of Tsort. I think I'm saying that right. The Pyramids of Tsort. So I am aware that there is another book in the Discworld series called Pyramids, and I would hope that it refers to the Pyramids of Tsort, because we go there towards the end of the book, and it's just such an interesting area. And there's a lot of really interesting lore and superstitions that surround that area and that specific culture in the world, and I really, really want to visit there again. I think it's going to be so interesting if they are the pyramids from the book Pyramids. The second connection that I found in the book is there's a line about how gods die when people stop believing in them. And I feel like that's a reference to the Discworld book Small Gods. I haven't read it yet, but I've seen it in my bookstore and I really want to pick it up. And I feel like that's a reference to that book, because what else would it be? As a side note, I think it's so interesting that Terry Pratchett is like setting up all these different potential plot lines for future books. It's so interesting to see him setting up all these potential future plot lines for himself. I love it. And the third connection that I found is Rincewind the Wizard. Now, I haven't read any books with Rincewind in them, but I've been looking at Discworld on like Pinterest and Instagram and stuff like that, and everyone was obsessed with this character called Rincewind. When I was reading Monstrous Regiment, I had no idea who that was. I knew I think he's featured in the first 2 books. I think he's got like his own series. He's kind of like Death. I was so surprised when I saw his name, and I'm so excited to read about that character now because I've seen him in this and I want to see more, and I'm so excited. So yeah, that's kind of the end of my talk about this book. If you read along with me, let me know what you thought of it. Let's have a discussion down in the comments. And if you want to hop on the train and start reading all of Discworld with me, the next Discworld book I'll be reading is Guards. This is the one that introduces the character of Sam Vimes. Now, he was in Monstrous Regiment, but I didn't know who he was. I'm excited to read this because he's a character that I've read about like 20 novels down the track. So this will be really interesting. I think that'll wrap that up. Let me know what you guys thought of Mort, and if you want to read along, make sure you read Guards as well. And if you don't want to miss out on the Guards video that'll be coming out in a couple of weeks, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss it. And yeah, I think that'll wrap that up. Thanks for watching.